Testing. Good evening. Today's date is July 8, 2024. The time's 5:30 p.m. We are meeting at 10 West State Street, which happens to be the City Council chambers for Marshalltown for a regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council. I call the meeting to order with those available and able to join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, please.
Kell.
Here.
Laddiehoff.
Here.
Mitchell.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here. Very good. Full house. It is time for public comment, so I have to read a proviso and then make sure the mic is open before we go on to the next item of business. Members of the public may make comments on any item that's not in the agenda during this time. I just want to advise that means city business, so we expect that the comments will be germane to anything really involving the city and city business that the council can handle. If you want to speak, approach the mic, state your name and address for the record, limit your comments to 3 minutes or longer unless I authorize longer. Direct the comments to the mayor and council as a whole, not to any individual councilor, and the mayor and the councilors are not able to engage in debate or discussion on those items raised by members of the public at this time because we don't want to fall afoul of the open meetings laws. With that said, the microphone is open.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may approach. I got to bang the gavel, didn't I?
Hello, Jim Shaw, 522 North 2nd Street. I enjoyed the car show down on 13th Street the other day. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Try not to mess up with the keyboard here. Good evening, Austin Gillis, ARL Marshalltown Executive Director. I would just like to give the council and the public
I got to stop you and ask you for your address.
1921 Taylor Avenue.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Okay, go.
I would like to give the council and the public a status update at the ARL. We currently have 64 cats and kittens available for adoption. This does not include the 50 kittens that are not yet ready or are available for adoption. We also have 49 dogs available for adoption, and our shelter is just bursting at the seams. We need the public's help to come get these animals and help us adopt them so we can find them loving forever homes. We do not have all the details ironed out yet, but we are excited to announce that we will be opening up a drop-in session for the public for fundamental and foundational training and education. A lot of this is going to be geared towards new pet owners, anybody who's looking for foundational or fundamental training, obedience, walking on a leash, things like that. How to be approached by a dog or how to approach a dog. Maybe we can eliminate some of these bite cases that are happening in town and with just a little bit of education to go in there. These classes are going to be offered to the public for free, courtesy of the ARL and the Board of Directors. We are able to announce that starting Tuesday, July 9th, we are offering a 50% discount on all animals that have been in the shelter for over 6 months. The only exception to this is Spirit and Raina, who are our longest resident dog and cat. Their adoption fees have been covered. We'd like to remind everyone that all the animals adopted at the ARL are spayed or neutered and are current on all vaccines. So adopting a cat from us for $35 is actually cheaper than getting a free cat that you would have to have all that vetting done. So if you or your friends or your family have been looking for the right time to adopt, it's now. Watch for us to be setting up at the booth at the farmer's market and bringing an adoptable or two. The only way we can continue to help the animals in Marshalltown is to come together to get them adopted and make room for the next one that is going to need us. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Very good. Time for mayor, council, and administrator comments. I should probably say time for council, administrator, and mayor comments, because I like that order better. Anyone?
Yes, Your Honor, if I may. I'd like to give a shout out to a few people. I can't name everyone, and I'll probably forget them anyway. For the 4th of July committee, Luisa Ortega, Michelle Roseborough Halverson, and Andy Schwant. They did a great job. In case you're wondering what it's like working with Luisa and Michelle, it's kind of like being blindfolded and put on a roller coaster without seat belts. But specifically, I'd like to bring up the Marshalltown bus system for the first time, Parks and Rec, the street department, the Marshalltown Police Department, and the Marshalltown Fire Department. They all did a terrific job. We're looking forward to doing this next year. A lot of people thought that the 13th Street things that happened on the 4th of July, our 4th of July committee did. Actually, that was the 13th Street District. Christine Isom, Heidi Drasley, Amy Dimerly Snyder, and a whole host more. They put on 3 days of activities down there with car cruises, music. They had a parade. They got all up to the Iowa Veterans Home, had a huge picnic up there with the veterans up there. The Arts and Culture Alliance with Amber Danielson and Phoebe Hermanson also helped out down there. So we were collaborating very well together, and that's what really makes the whole thing click. And the final thing I have is Iowa Veterans Home, Commandant Todd Jacobus, and all his staff for allowing us and the 13th Street District to come up there. They did a terrific job. I received a lot of different photos over the weekend, but the one that really struck me the most was all the veterans that were sitting outside at the Iowa Veterans Home watching the fireworks. So it was a very, very good job done. We're looking forward to doing bigger and better next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else?
Your Honor, if I may?
You mind?
Mike's right. The fireworks, I didn't go to 13th Street, but the fireworks at the softball complex went better than I anticipated. A good crowd. I can't speak to what happened, outside of the complex because I was there the whole day. But I just want to say one more thing. I've worked with Luisa too, and at least Mike gets to sit in the roller coaster. She just puts me on the track, so. And I don't get a blindfold, so. But no, she strictly volunteer, and she could use more help in the years to come. Puts on a really good event, and I honestly have to say it went well internally at the softball complex, and I was pleasantly surprised. The officers that were there seemed to be having a good time drinking beer. Oh, sorry, Kyle, I didn't. No, it was a very well-behaved crowd. I think everybody was happy. I talked to some of the food vendors. They felt good about the sales they made. So, and I think people enjoyed the music. It was a good show. So yeah, Mike and his group put on a really good show. So, and I'm sure they'll start taking donations for next year if everybody want to break out the money. So, thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mike Ludhoff's the one that always twists my arm until it breaks for the check for the July 4th thing. And you thank the other people on your committee, but you're one of the 4 that was on it. So I just want to personally thank you. Thanks for covering for me all the time and for doing what you do for this community, for the Ukraine families, and for our July 3, July 4 deal.
Your Honor, Greg said he's going to help next year, is what he told Mike.
I did say that, but I don't think I'm going to pretend I keep up with Mike
It's
or
too late
Louisa.
now, buddy.
We could give you a blindfold and a cigarette. Well, anyway, that was a fun event. Dodson is one of my favorite musicians, too. He was there the night before on the 13th Street deal, and our band is there. The West End Park is cool when things like that happen. The parade goes by it. 13th Street has just got a new life since that group of volunteers put that together, honestly. So that was fun. Yesterday was kind of fun. Sorry to say the police lost to the kids first. All the kids in the tug of war contest, they were good sports to do that. And then the sheriff's office, the police won the first one, and the sheriff's office won the second. I don't think it was fair that they weren't in uniform, and I think they were wearing cleats except for the one guy that was in thongs, But he went barefoot because he actually was in the thongs and figured he could dig in better without them. But it was a gorgeous day, and the Binford House is cool. It was an old lawyer that established that house years ago, and this volunteer committee has kept it up. Just within a week, all those nice things happening in Marshalltown, making this a place to come to and camp out at. And by the way, the city bus folks really did step up, for those that were worried about where could they park and how did they get there and that sort of thing. They were running the buses the whole time to help people get there and back. And my personal opinion from a rooftop where we watched the fireworks was that was the best we've ever seen here since we moved here in 1986. So that was just cool. Thank you, Jim Shaw, for being short tonight. And, we'll read what you wrote, but I appreciate that. That's a segue to say that we have been working hard up here. The whole council has been involved in working on narrowing down the list for having a new city administrator. I don't know about you folks, but I've been counting the days and months and weeks since Jessica Kinzer left here about last March or April of last year, and we're on the cusp of. We've narrowed it down significantly. We should be able to announce a new hire here within the next week. Might even have a special city council meeting this week. So we're right in the thick of the process, and I can tell you that if this one goes through, it will be a thrill for all of us and the staff and everybody sitting up here to have the next person coming here. So pretty exciting news. I wish I could tell you who. And there are like other things in the projects around town. I'd love to be able to tell you what the developers are looking at and that sort of thing. One of the people in the audience here has kind of an interesting thing going on right now where somebody might want to do an expansion. Those things are just fun, and it's fun to not be able to tell you guys what it is, so you have to wonder and read it in the news later. That's all I've got. Sorry, I talked too long there, too. I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 5 and 7 that Gary has removed.
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Very good. We don't have to read those, so now we get to go to item 5.
Resolution 2024-150, authorizing the use of local option sales and service tax revenue for year 1 of a 5-year contract with Axon Enterprise, Inc. to fund the police department vehicle camera, body camera, and taser project, and authorizing the police department to contract with Axon Enterprise, Inc. for equipment and services.
Let's see, we have a motion and second first,
Motion for
Second.
approval.
and then discussion. Gary?
Yes, this may be premature because this is just the first year contract, but I need some help in putting together an amendment that I'd like to make for this, that we don't limit the funding of the Axon cameras to the local option sales tax, that before each payment, I want the city staff to come to us for us to see what the balance is of the ATE funds if we get approved for the new, to get the cameras. I mean, the cameras are up and running again, but we've got an application process we have to go through with the state DOT. So I just want some help and some feedback if I'm going to make that amendment or if I'm not, that that we have the option to fund these payments using either 100% ATE funds each time the payment comes due, or at least have the option to do partial ATE, partial lost. So I just kind of threw that out there to see what the rest of the council has to say about that.
Let's see if anybody expresses an interest in making a second, assuming you're going to make the motion.
Just to clarify, the resolution is only to approve the first year. Okay.
Alicia, I'm assuming that that payment has to be made before we would even have any more revenue from the ATE cameras available, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a moot point then that we even need to discuss this tonight, because we'll have to discuss this for the second year's payment, correct?
Yes.
All right, then we don't even need to, I mean, number 7, I pulled that as part of this too. So, yeah, I will shut up and be quiet, Your Honor.
Okay. Unless there's other discussion up here or public discussion on this one, let's call the roll on the motion as
Mitchell,
made.
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Carried. Then for number 7, there's a motion to approve it. Yeah.
Move to approve, Your Honor.
And a second.
Second, Your Honor.
Anyone want to discuss this any further? Roll call.
Nichols, Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Very good. On to item G, resolutions. We have one of those. What are we looking at for that?
Public hearing and resolution 2024-160, providing for the conveyance and transfer of title for 407 Marion Street from the city of Marshalltown, Iowa to L. Hoagland Auto Plaza LLC.
And on that one, I'll declare the public hearing is open right now at 5:46 PM, and you probably didn't receive any written comments about this one, did you?
No, Your Honor.
Anybody want to make any public comments about this? I doubt it. Staff review?
The city received 3 bids on this property, and the high bid was from Lonnie Hoagland for $1,202.22.
Any council comments?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I think this is the best of both worlds. Lonnie is planning on this still being a park. And the city won't be mowing it anymore. So actually, I think this is really good. Lonnie's got plans for it. It'll be interesting to see what he does. And thank you, Lonnie.
Any other comment up here or out there? Yes, thanks. You weren't speeding to get up here, were you? We were talking about 4:30 today.
Lonnie Hoagland, 14008 East Main. And I was in Des Moines about 58 minutes ago, but I wasn't speeding. Honest, Your Honor, I wasn't.
At least not past that camera out on Lincoln Way.
Yeah, I didn't come in Lincoln Way, that's for sure.
Sorry.
I do have good plans for it. I've got some major plans for such a little park that I just stumbled into at a meeting the other night. You guys said you had no bids on a piece of property. I said, what's the deal? No bids. It's a park. Blah blah blah. And I've got some ideas that it'll get implemented. And a lot of people have told me we can't get rid of that park. We use it. We use it. We use it. So my son does lawn care. Sorry for him.
Let's see. That's the end of council comments. And did I declare the public hearing closed yet? I didn't, did I? 5:48 PM, it's closed. Let's call for a motion to approve it if we
Move
didn't
to
get
approve,
that.
Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
second? Roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols, Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
That carried. And Lonnie, I think we'll make you a good deal on the equipment that's there. And I know we will. So thank you for doing this. All right, on to item H. We do have more than one ordinance. What's our first one?
Public hearing and ordinance 15085 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 156, zoning, third reading.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Need to have
No,
a public
hearing
hearing.
starts first, Dave. I needed more coffee and a second tea here. Declare the public hearing is open now at 5:49 PM. I assume you didn't get any written comments.
No, Your Honor.
I doubt anybody wants to make any public comments about it, but sometimes that happens. Oh, we do have public comment. Okay.
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. I think you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. we have a moratorium on these ground mount solar arrays, and that will stop the process until we can get things figured out and how to change the zoning ordinance so everybody's happy. I understand we have some that are the cause of this debacle, but I don't think we should get all crazy. Ground mount is a good way to handle solar in certain instances, and it does work. I just think we need the time, which the moratorium will give us, to figure out the proper language to put in the zoning ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you.
Erin Carpenter, 802 North 4th Street. I agree with Mr. Eaton. I think that the proposed ban on ground-mounted solar arrays, there's a legitimate concern here, but the solution that's been proposed, I think, is overly simplistic, and the problem isn't that difficult to manage. Solar energy is a critical component of our transition to a sustainable, energy-independent future. So instead of an outright ban, we should consider balanced standards that address concerns, but also enable residents to invest in renewable energy. I know it doesn't impact rooftop solar. Rooftop isn't an option for everyone. Some people are lucky enough to still have mature trees shading their homes. Some roofs aren't configured well to fit solar panels in an efficient way. Sometimes a ground-mounted option is best. This seems like something that a few people decided was a problem because of a couple of cases. And while the city has been so understaffed in the last year, this ordinance was proposed, but I don't think that it reflects best practices, and I think that this deserves better research and consideration. I think we should also consider the impact that this ban has on disadvantaged communities. Renewable energy options can help reduce energy costs for low-income households and promote environmental justice. By making solar power more accessible, we can support economic equity and resilience in our community. So I would like this council to send this back to planning and zoning to seek expert technical expertise on best practices that will set Marshalltown up as a community that is friendly to renewable energy and energy independence. Specifically, I've referred the Planning and Zoning Committee to SolSmart, which is a program funded by the U.S. Department of Energy that provides no-cost technical assistance to exactly this problem. This is the future. We should have a comprehensive, informed, and careful look at our municipal codes as they regard solar power generation. Making haphazard reactionary adjustments like this is not going to set the community up for a resilient future. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Anyone else?
Lonnie Hoagland, 1408 East Main. Again, I'm speaking about something I don't know everything about here. I'm not educated on all the problems. I see some of the problems is they're not real appealing looking, but I think there's the John Deere dealer here in town has one right in their front yard for a display that they sell them, and I believe they've been selling them quite a while as a kind of a hit, as a ground mount thing. So it's kind of a shame we're trying to figure out the rules of how to do it once they've been selling them. So I would think they would be okay with the right rules, get them where they look good, look right, and don't just kill them. There's hope for them, especially you have a dealer right here in town that sells them.
Thanks, Lonnie. Anyone else? Okay. Staff review comes next.
I'm John Boston, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm representing, I guess, the zoning department right now. Get to the right page. One of the things that hasn't been mentioned, and I don't think you guys have mentioned it in the past either, is that one of the major changes in this is that all of the ground use in the future will be special use permit. So it won't just go through a couple people looking at it and the chances of something being missed. That'll happen for any agricultural zone properties or general industrial properties in the paperwork that you have in front of you. We found additionally problems with buffering requirements that we'll work on in the future. Probably when this ordinance was written originally, my personal opinion, it shouldn't have been buffering, it should have been screening. There should have been a solid fence around them instead of just trees. And also Alliant Energy, for those people that don't have a roof configuration that works or don't have a backyard to put it in, Alliant Energy offers a community solar program where you can buy solar energy directly from Alliant Energy. All you have to do is go Google Alliant Community Solar, and you'll be able to get a contact information with them, and they'll quote you what's required and what's needed. So that's the main topics I wanted to mention.
John, if I could.
Yeah.
Aaron, I think Aaron's arguments has some merit. Would it do any good to send it back to planning and zoning and use?
I don't think so at this time, because we don't have a zoning officer. We don't have a director of housing. We've got a contract person coming on to handle a little bit of work part-time. And I think it's a little bit like when we did the original electronic signs. We limited them to one per city block. And then after about 3 or 4 years, we limited them to one per business lot. And we need to learn more about these. There's a lot of places out there that are willing to help you, and almost all of them are solar lobbyists that have worked on that information. So you got to be careful what you're seeing. I've read through some of it. We're very similar to a lot of it right now. For the roof part, the full solar principal use, we're very similar. And for the ground solar, by using the special use permit, we can specify the bushes can't be under the panels, they need to be a few feet away from them. They can't be a foot tall, they need to be 4 feet tall. We can do all that as part of the special use permit process. So that's why I think we all decided to go this way and recommend it to the city council in this configuration at this time. So,
Do you think the Planning and Zoning Commission will be looking at this further down the road?
oh, definitely. Yeah, we've got a lot of things we need to look at in the next few months, so,
Thank you, John.
okay.
Okay, that's staff review. Now time for council comments.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I spoke to Mr. Boston before the meeting and took to heart what Aaron Carpenter had to say, and I was one of those that jumped on this bandwagon because, we reacted to something in a neighborhood, right or wrong, and then the more research I did, I found out our staff themselves can't even agree on how we even look at a corner lot as what a setback really is and things like that. My issue today is I'll be voting no on this. Third reading, I want to stop this because we have the moratorium in place right now for residential. That buys us time. The other problem I have is if we pass this tonight, it's at least 1.5 years before we can even discuss this again after a regular city election when we bring new people on board by our council rules of bringing something back. Cindy's looking at me like I'm wrong.
I wouldn't agree with that.
I'd be surprised myself.
Yeah, we can bring forward ordinance amendments whenever they're needed.
Okay. But if we pass this tonight, clarify this for me, that amendment and ordinance to an amendment, are we going to be able to champion that moving down the ladder, or does that have to come up to us from planning and zoning?
I would think we'd have, the city council would have the power to do anything it wanted without requiring planning and zoning to come to us with something first.
We need their expertise we tell them we want it on a certain agenda, they'd have to do all the legwork. Okay, I still like the idea of leaving the moratorium in place and then letting them have 6 months to figure some stuff out. So, I'm just letting you know that I think we jumped the gun on this. I'll be voting no on this third reading tonight. Thank you.
Just so you know, the moratorium still stands. And the vendor on Center Street does not sell to residential. It's strictly to ag, because I have investigated that on another situation.
Your Honor. I would agree with Counselor Thompson, but if we're going to toss the football back to planning and zoning, there's nobody there to catch it for city staff. So.
Go ahead.
So I understand they created something, and I think it does need to be looked at harder and in more detail, but I don't see city staff and housing. We have enough of a rebuild of city staffing in place. It's going to be more than 6 months before they get a full team to help them evaluate that. So I see it being more like a year, and some information could maybe come forward. But they've done a lot of work, and I would prefer we just move forward with that, let it come forward back to us as they have more information.
Thank you. Other council comment on this one?
Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead.
So yes, valid points across the board. I guess I'm not clear on the distinction between a moratorium and us voting this through or down. I mean, it's got to come back one way or another. If we vote this down and the moratorium stays in place, we're still going to review this at a later date. We approve it, changes are made, we're reviewing it again. We vote this down and changes come. So I don't see this as an all or nothing approach, but I think having clear direction to send back to P&Z is probably where the benefit from council direction tonight comes from.
John?
Just so you're aware, this would allow the people who want to do it in agricultural and industrial zones to proceed. If you leave the moratorium in place, they can't do anything either. So,
To release the moratorium, there would be additional council action at the subsequent meeting.
Well, I've seen two of you raise your hand from the public, but we already passed over public comments, and then we went to staff review. During staff review, we actually got some council questions, and the council comments are supposed to come later, so we're kind of going out of order on this one, but it's kind of an important issue. So I will exercise my executive fiat to suggest that the two of you who wanted to speak from the public, go ahead. I'll give you the 3-minute limit.
Erin Carpenter again, 802 North 4th Street. It sounds like we have an agreement on that we need to do something about this, but we disagree on whether we want more work now or later. And if this ordinance goes through, it's going to be more work later to take all these special requests one at a time, and someone has to deal with that, versus if we just go back to the drawing board for a second and acknowledge that maybe we went a little bit fast on this, that we can have a robust set of very streamlined, easy to follow rules to guide the public on if they want to implement ground arrays. I don't think that backtracking at this point is, for me personally, I really like to be right. And it's taken me
It's never bothered me as a problem myself.
it's taken me nearly 40 years to come to terms with, like, I don't need to be right, I need to get it right. And I think that this is an opportunity to get it right, and to take things back and consult. And I acknowledge that, like, the lack of staffing is a huge issue, and the staff that are working with the city right now are probably very overworked and at capacity, but that is not, that shouldn't punish the people who want to take advantage of the benefits that are available for adopting solar right now. So, again, I'd encourage you to get it right, and to maybe not make more work in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Jim Shaw, 522 North Second Street. I agree with everything that she said. You know, listening to John, he's, well, we can't do this because we're short a staff member here, and we're short a staff member there. So you're asking everybody to, you know, you're just, we can't do it because we don't have enough staff, so everybody else has to pay for that. I just don't see that. Paying for the mistake or the problem that we don't have enough staff to do that, I don't agree with that. Thanks.
Thank you. And I can't help myself but to comment that right now, it's either going to be these poor volunteers, and I'm really proud of the people that we've got doing planning and zoning. John Boston, you've been doing this for decades, and the work they do. I also feel sorry for the Board of Adjustment if it's going to have to make each item, each application that comes in for this, because it's coming, solar is coming, and they're going to be busy as hell. And I see one of the people in the audience here that was recently appointed to that. They're going to be busy. We can't even advertise the position for our new planner until we go through the Civil Service Commission. Jill's working on that. We haven't had many applications come in for the housing director, so we are short-staffed. And so I don't know, it's going to put more pressure on the poor city staff that have been understaffed for some time, or more pressure on one or the other of the commissions that we have available. So that's my 2 cents. Go ahead.
So as we stand now, though, it's under a moratorium, so nothing is happening. And so all ground-mounted is verboten, period. So is that the stage we want to keep this at?
Your Honor, good fences or strong fences make good neighbors. It seems like solar arrays make enemies of neighbors. I just don't see how this is going to work in Marshalltown. I'll be in favor of voting this ordinance through.
Your Honor, just a point of clarification. Sure. The contention is on the residential side, I sense. Yeah. So I think we have clarity on the industrial or commercial side that there's a workable solution. It's on the residential side. And at this point in the third reading, it's probably pretty difficult to separate that out, parse out just the residential at this point.
This ordinance does identify in-ground for residential only as a barrier going forward with or without the moratorium.
Okay. Other council comments before we declare the public hearing closed?
If I may, Your Honor, one more.
You may.
As Mr. Boston pointed out himself earlier, in an earlier meeting, commercial doesn't border commercial. Commercial borders residential. So if we pass this tonight and move forward, you're still going to have residential people upset with a solar array in their backyard, meaning their neighbor's yard. So that's, we're shutting down one problem and opening the door to another one if we don't go back and go back to the drawing board on this. So leave you with that.
Gary, I need to correct you because this ordinance only allows it in general industrial and agricultural. Commercial is not allowed, residential is not allowed with what you've got right now. Because, like I've stated in the past, almost all of our commercial is intertwined with residential. And this is a stopgap from the planning and
John-
zoning point of view, too.
While you're there, what about mixed use?
Next year,
Mixed use zoning.
that's a whole nother can of worms.
There's nothing in the books for solar
Not-
arrays and
Not
mixed
allowed in
use?
mixed use right now either. Or urban core, or public institution. So we approved the ordinance, or wrote the ordinance and sent it back to you, where we thought there would be very few problems, so that we could continue to work on the other issues when we went through the complete zoning ordinance again.
Okay. Well,
Thanks, John.
Let's call the public hearing closed at 6:10 PM. And we haven't had the motion to approve.
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is
And
there
I
a
will
s-
second.
Okay, and let's call the roll. Does anybody question what they're voting on? Okay, roll call.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Mitchell, Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Kell,
Yes.
Very good, that carried. And before we move on to, thanks again for planning and zoning and board of adjustment, and for the public for handling the fact we're short-staffed right now. I for one, well, I'm a member of this community climate lobby group in Iowa. I have a meeting on Saturday. I've been lobbying our congressman up in the northwest corner, or the southeast county, on to work on our environment, and been working on getting the solar and wind energy, renewable energy things in place. So I'm happy to see that we're still going to continue working on figuring out solar that works for everybody in the town. Appreciate it. Okay, on to our next item.
Ordinance 15087 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 118, Peddlers, Solicitors, Transient Merchants, third reading.
Is there a motion to approve this ordinance? I guess we don't
Move
need
for
a...
approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. Do we not need a public hearing on this, though?
We don't have one listed.
No, we do not. We only do the public hearing on the zoning amendments.
Okay, second.
That was a good question. I wondered that myself. Any discussion by council first? Any discussion by the public second? Roll call on this one.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff.
Yes.
Carried. And our next and last ordinance.
Ordinance 15089, approving the rezoning of Creekside Lane from mixed use to medium residential. This is the first reading. We will have a public hearing at the second reading.
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Boy, am I glad you're here to know this stuff, because I wouldn't have
Good.
figured that out. Discussion on this one? Up here or out there? Roll call.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Very good, that carried. Fun to see another residential project going into place here. And I see that the one over by the post office is starting to be occupied now, too. That's really pretty when you drive by, so it's kind of fun to watch this grow. Okay, on to discussion items. First one of which is request for sealed bid process for 817-819 North Fifth Avenue.
Yes, Your Honor. Staff's looking for direction if the council wants to put this property back out to the sealed bid process. We previously did that, and they did not approve the sale to the bidder. So the city attorney advised we will need to reject all the bids that we received previously on that. So we can repost the request for sealed bids. And in the packet, there was a few edits made to the bid document for your consideration.
Any discussion up here first on this one?
I think it's a good idea to rebid the whole thing.
Anyone else?
I'd move forward with rebidding.
Anybody disagree up here?
Your Honor, if I may,
You may.
I think by changing the language, we're going down a dangerous path to where we start picking and choosing. It's a gray area who we define as a responsible bidder. You know, we're going to start picking and choosing what families, what people we want in that neighborhood. Even though I don't like the sealed bid process, I like the idea of just giving it to the highest bidder. It's fair, it's equitable. I don't like where we're going to go down this path where we have all these variables in place. The country stopped redlining for a reason earlier in the city of the United States, or the history of the United States. I don't want to see us bring back moving towards that direction. So thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Other council comments first? Public comment on this one?
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. I'm on Councilor Thompson's side on this. That one little word called responsible, what's responsible? If I have an unpaid ATE fine, I can't buy a property. If I have the wrong look, the wrong dress, the wrong heritage, is that what's the list of responsible? That needs to be defined seriously. Redlining is a big problem that shouldn't happen. And I know it still does.
Other public comment? Staff would like direction, so if anybody has a motion to make to provide that, I'd entertain it.
Yeah, I also would like direction on if you do proceed with issuing it back for sealed bid, do you want these to come back as a discussion item to review the bids or before we set a public hearing, or would we keep the same process of setting the public hearing after the bids come in?
I would make a motion to stay with the program that's in place, to put it back out for bid, and then obviously just use the same procedure we've been using.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie-Hoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Carried. Staff has its direction. All right, our next and last item before we go into closed session is a request to purchase an alley at 206 North 8th Street.
Yes, Your Honor. Councilor Thompson received a request from the owner at 206 North 8th Street to purchase the east-west alley just north of his property. He submitted a written request, and also the neighboring property at 208 North 8th Street submitted a letter of support for this acquisition. Heather Thomas has some information on this.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. Our normal process when there is a request to vacate an alley is we reach out to all the utility companies that have interest or potential utilities in that alley, which does include the street department who maintains alleys. We did so, and both our storm superintendent and our street superintendent requested not vacating this alley for the reasons in my memo. In short, we do have a large diameter storm sewer running through this alley that we would like to maintain access to and keep it in a condition that's easy to access. Additionally, vacating this portion of the alley would make traveling through this section in the east-west direction more difficult because it's not vacating the entire alley from street to street. We did have an incident in this particular alley this last winter where we did have a vehicle get stuck at the T right there at the west end of where the vacation is being requested.
Thank you. Other comment up here or in the public?
Thank you. Tom Farley, I live at 206 North 8th Street. And the main reason why I've asked to purchase this is because of the amount of traffic that goes through that alley. I think it's inordinate compared to other alleys. The alley has been paved. It's a very nice alley, and my kids and the neighbors' kids use it quite often to play and ride their scooters down there. If you're aware, it's a long block. Fremont does not go between 8th and 9th Street. So people seem to think that it's just okay to cut through that alley just because they don't want to go another half a block. We've had 2 neighbors that have had fences damaged from people going through that alley at speeds that shouldn't be happening, and it just hasn't been a safe situation. The west exit to that alley is a little bit steep, but the exit out to Summit Street is easily accessible and shouldn't have any issues there. The east-west alley is vacated south behind my property, but there's no one that wouldn't have access to their. I'm not planning on putting up some big fence and blocking the whole thing off completely, so there'd be an easement in the alley. They would always have access to any utilities, or the city would be able to get access to that. So I would appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comment by anyone? I'm sure staff would appreciate direction on this one.
If I may, Your Honor.
You may.
Obviously, I support Mr. Farley's and Mr. Needham's request. Like Mr. Farley said, there's already a dead-end alley that's a grass alley back there. So being a T or just being a corner shouldn't make a difference to Public Works. Mr. Farley and I, neither one of us are sure. We think long ago a previous owner is the one that actually paid to have it blacktopped. The easements would still exist. Mr. Farley said that he'd have his lawyer draw something up, because if the Needhams ever move out of that house, obviously they need that alley for access to their garage. So he's going to have, an easement drawn up for the address across the alley. I think this is a good use for us to vacate this. There's one less alley to plow for the city staff, so I'm in favor of this.
If I may.
You may.
Throughout the years, I know the city has made some side deals with people and this and that regarding properties, because the city council decided to go ahead and do something like this, and it ends up being a mess. I understand why you'd want to do this. I really do. But I can't, normally I go ahead and sell property if we can. But I think that in this case we can't. There's just too much down there to try and do some kind of agreement that we could sell it, but we can still have this attorney and this agreement, and this comes up. We see this quite a bit, and I'm not going to be in favor of this.
Other council comment?
Your Honor, this just seems like a extreme reaction to what I don't doubt is an issue. I don't understand, if access remains, if nothing will be blocked off, how does vacating this address any of those concerns? Putting a sign saying it's private property may deter some people, but that same argument could say, use a slow children playing thing sign there too. So I guess I don't understand how vacating this actually solves the issue, if we are to believe that there truly is no alterations to the access of it.
Other points to be made up here? Well, let me see if any other council wishes to speak first, but if not, I'll have you come back up. Come on back up, sorry. Oh, sit down. No, I just jumped in there.
I could use the exercise. So my idea behind this was not to put up a permanent structure that would block any access to any utilities, okay, without having to remove them. I mean, obviously, there were a lot of trucks in that alley back during the tornado and the derecho, and I appreciate that. My plan was to put something, a barrier of some kind that would be movable, that would at least deter people from just driving up there, the alley, knowing that it's private property. So, again, I'm not putting a permanent structure on it. I'm not planning on putting a shed back there to keep my tools and things in. But something, that I could put across there so that people would realize it is private property, along with a sign, of course. So nothing permanent and there's a lot of properties, I've lived in properties before where there's fences there, but there's an easement of 5 feet on each side, and you have to move that fence if the people have to get back there. So we're always going to allow our utilities to get back there. So, and there is a storm drain. There's actually an access in my yard to that storm drain that I have to keep clear. So I'm aware of that being there as well, and they would have access to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion before I call for direction for staff?
Your Honor, if I may,
You may.
in case of the street department having to get in there and remove their stuff underneath the paving, who's going to be responsible to repave that? Is it going to be responsible for the homeowner, or is the city going to be responsible?
As it stands now, the city has no reason or requirement to keep that as a paved alley. So if there was maintenance needed to that current storm sewer, we would go in there and we would put that back as gravel.
Your Honor, I feel this is a dangerous precedent to set. We're going to have 50 people in town wanting to purchase the alleys that they don't like people driving through. And I do understand the safety concern Mr. Farley's talking about. People are driving way too fast down alleys. But I just don't think this is the thing we need to do. I don't think selling it will do us any good.
I wanted to suggest we just use one of those ATE mobile cameras. Okay, anyone else? Anybody want to put it in the form of a motion to
Your Honor, I
direct
will.
staff? Okay.
I'll make a motion to direct staff to prepare this alley for sale to Mr. Farley as stated in the documents.
Is there a second?
I'll second it to get it to vote.
Okay. Let's call the roll.
Schneider?
No.
Thompson?
Yes.
Kell?
No.
Lottiehoff?
No.
Mitchell?
No.
Nichols?
No.
Okay. Thank you for the owner and for the staff for looking into a possible solution for it. With that, we are ready to go into a closed session pursuant to section 21.5 subsection 1 paragraph J of the Iowa Code to discuss purchase of the sale of a particular real estate where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price or decrease the price. And the city has an attorney-client relationship with Lynch Dallas, who has recommended that this closed session is appropriate.